Okay, everyone. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the live stream. You know, the one that's never scheduled, but just all of a sudden starts, which is really good reason. Hold on, it's going to come up and it's on mute. I am 2 for 2 this week. The live stream that you get notified if I go live, and you're going to want to get notified. So housekeeping first. How about just hit that like button while you're down there? Make sure that you're subscribed and hit the notification bell. And then when we are live, you'll be informed. And at the same time, you might go over to Telegram and go to t.me/Uncle Vigilante. That's where we talk about crypto. If you're one of these who likes to talk about, all of the craziness that's going on in the world, you can go to t.me/Uncle Odds Lounge. That's cool too. I don't spend much time in there. I like t.me/Uncle Vigilante because right now, frankly, I'm just kind of interested in crypto these days. So I have with me John J. Singleton, legend. He had him on last week to discuss taxes. If you haven't seen that, I highly encourage you to go down and watch that. The findings just might surprise you, might even help you keep a little of your money. I don't know, your decision, but it all starts with research, and investing a couple hours in that very, very good video would be a good start. Now, during that Zoom call, John had mentioned, or I presented to John, I'm like, the real estate company or the vendor that figures out how to be able to make it easy to buy real estate with crypto, because the banks, they could care less what your Blockfolio app says. They could care less that you're doing really well. They don't care unless you convert it to fiat. And then when you convert it to fiat, what I understand, you have to have it in the bank for 2 months before they'll even consider it something, that they'll consider. So while I was talking about that, kind of just talking out loud, Mr. Singleton said, yeah, we do that. We can process $7.5 million of loans a day doing that. Or I don't know if loans is the right word, but I'm like, what? The show's almost over. You've given us 2 hours. Will you please come back? You were kind enough to come back. So I also have on the line, and he is coming to Mike Puccinelli, my best friend. He was my best man. He is a very accomplished real estate investor up in Richmond, Virginia. He's one of these smart guys that, even when real estate went south, he was just fine because he and his dad, they bought up all of these units around VCU, Virginia. What is it? Virginia, whatever the hell it is. Anyway, in Richmond, Virginia, and rents it to all the students. So that was kind of recession proof. So good on him. But he's just gotten into crypto over the last month and a half, and is in it knee deep. No, let's say we just dove into the shallow end head first. He did too. And so I asked him to be on the call because I never knew, maybe something that you say might help him with his business. Maybe he may be able to ask better questions than I can. So anyway, welcome to you both on the phone. Mike is not coming to us live because I would joke and say he had a drunk accident to where he passed out and passed out drunk and split his chin open. But, the story just isn't that good. He's on this medication after some heart surgery that he had last week, and literally passed out, took a chin dive. And so he says, I'm not going to look too good, Toddy. So I said, well, why don't you call in? So Mike, you want to say hello?
Hello. How are you guys doing? Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
We just want to know, are you all right tonight? You sitting down, Mike?
No, I'm actually standing up. It's like I have a drop in pressure when I go from sitting to standing, and I figured I'd stand, so that'll make things a little bit better.
All right, just don't drop forward.
No, it's bad. I mean, I have a low resting heart rate, and like 40 beats per minute just from running. and then with the stupid medicine they put me on, it lowers your heart rate even further, and so you're subject to sudden swings and blood pressure, and that's what happened. And boom, I mean, it was like I got punched, but it was ugly. Ugly.
Well,
so I'll spare everybody from having to see that.
Okay. Well, we're just glad you're safe, buddy. And so, John, I know this has been a nuts week for you. Again, thank you for giving us some time. I'm really, really interested in this. I don't even know the question to ask to open it up. Maybe you can just kind of give us an overview of what it is this is and how people might use it.
Well, if you're talking about buying real estate with cryptos, right? The way to do it, how do you trade your cryptos for real estate if the seller wants dollars? That's the big problem everybody wants to solve.
Yeah.
I like to do it in a way that doesn't create a liability. For example, if I have someone suing me, which is, I don't know how many of you out there are getting sued right now, but let's just say there's a liability. Someone's making a claim against me. And if I have money in my bank account, that can be levied. So if I want to liquidate some of my assets during this situation, I can do it in a way where it never gives the creditor the right to take the money as long as I don't have the right to take the money. So I can do that if I transfer my coins into escrow, and then the escrow goes through closing, and then everybody gets what he wants. Everybody pretty much gets dollars. So it's on the escrow agent to do whatever it needs to do to make the transaction work. So if I can do that transaction, then any claim against me is going to be avoided. And likewise, this is what everyone cares about. What about taxes? And yeah, you would avoid a tax liability.
Okay, so back the bus up. Let's because you're dealing with me. A little slow up the on-ramp, John. So let's just walk through a normal real estate transaction. Let's use I recently went through one co-signing on my daughter's home. So let's say I want to let's just do to make the math easy. Let's do $100,000 house. No, $100,000 house, let's say. And we know those don't exist out there.
Well, from 1965, yeah.
Yeah, right. So $100,000 house. And for me to buy that house and not have to pay private mortgage insurance, the lender's going to want $20,000. Screw that. I want to make the numbers bigger because it'll be more impactful and probably more realistic for those who are in the crypto game right now. Let's say it's $1 million home. And so you have to come up with $200,000. Now, let's say you're so if we go the traditional route, you have to be able to have that $20,000 in an account that's accessible that you could wire to the closing agent, right? Or
right.
I guess that would be right. The closing. And you're going to have the lender look everywhere throughout your bank records to verify that $200,000 came from quality verified sources, and you're not
do that right
or something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's a pain in the ass because some transactions I remember I was going through the process, and there was one transaction that was like $12,422, and I couldn't freaking remember what it was. And it had to do with an issue with one of my 401s. 401 it went bankrupt, and it was one that came back, and it was kind of a good news story. That's like, just kidding, just part of it did, and here's the part that anyway. I couldn't remember what it was. So It took me forever to go through that. It was a pain in the ass, and it put the loan at risk because it was kind of like last minute, where the lender managing the final closing package just had to check that box. So point is, you have to come up with 20%. You have to be ready to wire it. It's a pain in the ass. But now, all the time that I was doing that, it was back in the days. I don't know if you remember, it was kind of recent. It's where the crypto markets were doing really, really well.
Yep.
And my portfolio was up, a lot.
Right.
So at that point in time, man, I was just thinking, geez, it would be so great if I could just send some crypto to this closing agent's wallet, and just be done with this. In this kind of market, when it's up, it's almost like I wouldn't even miss it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where I started thinking, geez, the lender that figures out how to take crypto and make it easy is going to make bank. And that's where you stepped in. So now let's go through my process again. Or Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah. So Todd, let me just jump in. So I think what I thought I understood John to say is if you wanted to buy something outright, you would just send all the money through crypto to an escrow account that an escrow agent keeps, and they can accept crypto, and then you would just own it outright. But I think what you're saying, Todd, is okay. Let's change it from $100,000. Let's go up to something. Let's say you want to buy some commercial property, and you got a $20 million deal, and you've got bank financing lined up, and you're leveraging it up, right? So you're going to put down, let's say 20%, right? So $4 million in crypto is what you'd like to do, but you got to give that as part of the bank financing. So I think that's the question: is how do you get bank financing?
Right.
Using crypto.
Yes.
Right.
And I'll just tell you that you're not going to do that.
Not even on it for the down payment?
Not right now. In fact, if you discuss cryptographic currency with the lender, they're going to run you around in circles. You'll never get the deal done. They're idiots. They just don't understand.
I misunderstood. So you're saying you can buy it outright with crypto through.
Well, that's an easier example, but you can do both like you described.
Wait, I thought you said you couldn't do the down payment with the lender. So can if I want to buy $1 million home tomorrow and I have $200,000 in crypto, can I use your service to where then I could go to the lender and he says, "Where's your 20%?" And I point to you and I say, "It's over there."
That's correct.
Oh, okay. I thought you said we couldn't do that because the lender would drive you around in circles.
If you talk to the lender about cryptos, everything comes to a screeching halt because they're just idiots.
Okay, so
they don't need to know about it anyway.
Your service is invisible as far as what funded it.
That's correct. It's like a black box.
It's okay. Great. Okay, so it accomplishes the same end that we can use crypto.
Exactly.
Your black box.
Imagine if you had gold and you wanted to sell it to buy the real estate and use the gold proceeds for the down payment.
Right.
You could probably put gold in escrow. They understand that, but then they still have to liquidate it. And they probably won't do it. Most escrow agents won't do that. They just want a bank wire. And then you would need a third party to liquidate it for you. And that's what we're doing. We're just buying the coins and putting the dollars into escrow. And that's all the bank gets to see.
So you would be the escrow agent, is what you're saying, right? So we would hire you as the escrow agent.
Yeah, we would be part of that function. We're not going to actually perform escrow. So we could perform escrow, but you can have your own escrow agent. And all we're going to do is perform one function, which is converting the coins into dollars under the escrow contract.
And then when the lender says, "Well, where did you get that?"
That's when you have to show that you sold property, you sold some assets, you sold cryptos, and you can easily show that. You can do a report showing what you disposed of for that.
Okay, so
they're going to do it.
They're not going to get their panties in the wad because it was crypto, as long as there was $200,000 of crypto that you can prove that you sold.
Right. They just want to see where it came from and be able to meet their reporting standards. That's all they care about, is not having the liability. So as long as they get information from you, then they can pass it on and they're happy.
So then with your service, your black box, if I sold $200,000 worth of different coins, you would be able to generate a report that demonstrates that, right? Because
that's correct.
For buying.
Yes, we can generate a report, like called a balance sheet or a receipt, showing that that's where the money came from. That's all they want to see. In fact, you can just ask the bank, "What do you want to see to show how I got this money?"
Okay.
They might want to see a W-2, or it was in your bank account and you have a copy of your statements, or if it's cryptos, you want to isolate what you sold. I'm sure you could do that, and then they can verify it on the blockchain. So it's all verifiable. How nice is that?
So I mean, you're talking to a newbie here, so I don't know how easily verifying it is on the blockchain. And then when you're dealing with a bank, what I found.
Todd, let me just tell you, verifying it on the blockchain is as easy as just putting your little token in there, and it'll tell you, that it's there or it's not there, and where it is. Even this newbie can do that.
You could even put a little instruction sheet and slip it in there with your documents and say, "There you go."
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So now since I sold the coins to you in this black box, that's not triggering a tax event, right?
No, because at no point did you have the right to spend the money because it was under a contract. It was under qualified escrow.
See,
So you didn't
that's
have the
a
right.
big deal. Everybody don't
Yeah.
miss that because you charge a fee for this service,
That's
right?
correct. It's a
So-
third party, so it is qualified escrow. I would not do this with like Uncle Bob. You actually have to have a real escrow service.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. So the math, I believe, is 15%, right?
Yep. Usually, yep. It could be less. Yep.
It can be less depending upon how big the transaction is, but let's just call it 15%. So that 200,000, it would be 15% of that, correct? So
Correct. Yes.
I'm going to have to sell a little more,
That's right.
right? But keep
Yes.
in mind, if I liquidated that and put it in as fiat in the bank, that now becomes likely a 25% liability if you are if you haven't listened to last week's show that
It could be up to 39%. It could be pretty high.
right.
Yeah, and you'll get a 1099. Now, the way we do it does not create a 1099. Not that that's a problem, but it's just less things you have to deal with.
Right. I mean, this is a big, giant damn deal.
I know. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. And we spent a long time on this. I mean, I didn't do most of the work. It was my partner, but we kind of collaborated on this from the beginning or mid last year. And we started doing some transactions this year. I think the biggest one we did was $1 million, but we're able to do $7.5 million per day per client.
Per day per client. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, all we need is the account details, like the blockchain address for the coins. And then we need wire instructions. And then we can, within 24 hours, we send the money from the coins over to your escrow account.
But
and so that works for anything, right? That works for any asset we're trying to purchase.
Anytime you could use escrow, yes.
So if Uncle V wanted to buy a yacht, right?
Absolutely.
And it was $10 million. It was $10 million. Your fee would be 15%, right? So he'd have to go 11.5 million.
We could probably get it
a lot less than that.
Pretty low. Yeah. Pretty low.
And here's one thing to think about too, people, when you're thinking about this fee, because I know you are. That's what we do. We think about fees, and we think of it as an expense versus an investment. Can you imagine? Because you are working with a bit of time, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but when is the fee assessed? Because if it's $200,000 that I need to put down, so that means, let's just round it up, make it easy, that I'm going to send $230,000. So I'm going to send $230,000, and the market's kind of up, but we're not going to close for 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So
you're talking about a rate lock, right, Toddy? Basically, saying when are you going to?
Is there
you have 24 hours? It'll lock in when we convert it to dollars. That's it. It's within 24 hours.
Okay.
Then we don't care what the rates are.
Dollar at that point. So if by the time closing, Bitcoin plummets like it did now,
it's not going to matter.
It's not going to matter.
Yeah, it's because we'll already have converted it within the 24 hours. So
Okay.
I don't know the moment when there's a rate lock. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I'd have to get you more details on that.
Okay.
Yeah. That could be important, right? Like if we had a meltdown like we did before, like you can look at a 24-hour, shift on your app, and you can select. So basically, what you're saying is it's variable until it flips. Is what I'm hearing.
There is that.
And so as long as
you can, all right, you can mitigate it by just deciding what coin you're going to liquidate and put it into a stable coin. Now you control that.
Oh,
now there's a rate lock.
Smart.
Then you send it. We can take a stable coin.
That's smart, right? So we just convert your money, Todd, to a stable coin, then you're set, right?
Now you know your rate.
Okay. Yep. And that totally answered my question. I was going to try to get clever and say, hey, do you think we could have a singleton piggy bank? Because I could see sending a little Bitcoin over this month, a little one this month, because next year I want to buy a home and I won't even miss it when I'm in the upper parts, and then all of a sudden now I'm ready to go. But I can do the same damn thing if I just am disciplined and put it into my stablecoin piggy bank.
Of course. You could.
My wallet that I would designate as real estate or whatever.
Right. Now, you know that real estate is, you cannot, the IRS does not look at real estate as being priced in anything but the dollar. So you cannot just say, well, this real estate was purchased with cryptos, therefore it's not worth any dollars. It's just cryptos. No, they're going to say it's worth, it has so much value, and they're going to figure out what that is exactly to the penny. So if you take title to the property and stop there, you're going to have a tax liability.
Okay.
It will be considered a gain, a disposition of assets, because you own the real estate and you put the down payment down or you paid cash for it. So the legal way around that is to not take the title, but you want to use a company to take the title, or you want to put a debt on the property, meaning you can have a company structure a loan on the property, and then it has to be real market value, real rates, and you have to have a payment record of that loan and actually pay it back. And once you do all that, then you can, it will amount to converting an asset from one asset, your holdings from one asset to another asset. And even though it has a dollar value along the way, at no point did you have a gain.
Right, right. So in this case, I personally own nothing but control everything.
That is correct. And this is where CPAs freak out and they go, wait, stop. You can't do that. And let's just talk about, just quickly here, two coins. So if I'm going from Litecoin to Bitcoin, I know we've talked about this before.
Let's do it again.
And you read it in the news, everywhere. I shouldn't even say news. It's in the propaganda all over the internet. All these people writing articles. And I think there's like a small group of people writing all the articles, and it's the same thing over and over again.
I agree.
Coin to coin is taxable, it's reportable and all that. Well, it would be if your coin was being used to purchase a coin from somebody else, and vice versa. If the same party is moving his own coin from one coin to another and to gold and then to another coin, and he's doing that and he still retains the beneficial interest or the beneficial ownership, there is no purchase or sale, and there's no disposition, and there's no tax liability.
Pooch, you get that?
Yeah, I got it. It's, what's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't have considered it a taxable. The only thing is, in my mind, is a taxable event is when you actually sell something at a profit potentially, and you recognize that, and then you buy something else, right? But
yes,
if you're, if you're trading something and it's all on you, then I don't see what.
You got it.
I agree. Yeah,
that's correct. And the legal language is that there's no change in beneficial interest, and we do this with real estate. Somebody wants to sell his house, and I just did this for California recently. So a guy calls me, wants to sell his house, closing dates in 30 days. So we did a quick claim deed, and with the quick claim deed, by the way, there's a checkbox form. The county or the state will give you this form. Now, California and Florida are big on this because of the documentary stamp tax that goes along with your filing fee. Okay, when you transfer the title of real estate. So I went from the client's name to a company that we had set up, a limited liability company. And we filed an exemption form to the documentary stamp tax. It was a huge tax. In California, I think it's like 20%. It's huge. So you're exempted from it because the government recognizes that when there's no change in beneficial interest. So it cost him maybe the filing fee like $20 to transfer $1 million property, and then he sold it, and then all that money went to his company, and then we were able to handle the tax treatment differently than he was able to handle it in his name. That was the whole purpose. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just moving assets around. Even if it's a liability, it doesn't matter if you buy your own house. It's still a dollar denominated thing. So as long as you don't touch it.
But just to be clear on this, I think so. Let me see if my interpretation of what I'm hearing is, it's not that I would be, if I bought something, I would be paying taxes at that point. So if I, use the escrow service and I bought something, I'm not going to pay any taxes at that point, I don't think. But if I was to then sell the house asset or the real estate asset, I would be paying taxes at that point. Is that right?
That is correct. If you sold it in your name, and if you sold coins in your name, yes. If you realize the dollars first, then you put the dollars in escrow. Yeah.
Okay, but if I'm buying something, right? If I'm buying something and holding it, right? So in this case, I'm using your escrow service. I've converted coin into dollars, and maybe it's the stable coin into U.S. dollars, and I'm using it to then go buy something because I have to have dollars. I'm not. There's no issue until the point in time I go to sell that real estate potentially.
That is correct. Yes.
And then at that time, you'd probably do something smart like John just mentioned, with another entity.
Right.
This looks like a lot.
But that's what I'm saying.
Like
But
yeah.
yeah,
This looks like a
if you're not planning on
1031
selling
exchange.
something, that's what I'm saying. If you're not planning on selling it and just holding it, then you don't really have to worry about it.
Just remember
Right.
though that if you do all that clever stuff, so you sell your coins into escrow and then you acquire the title, and then you don't hold the title properly, like not in your name, like put it in a company name or put a debt on there, like even if you have to put a second mortgage for the down payment you made, uh, that the crypto sale that took place will be considered a disposition of assets in your name.
Right.
There is still that little moment
Okay.
there. And what you just said, sell it later.
Okay.
Just be
So
careful about that.
it's a very important part of
Yeah.
this live stream to be able to say, if there is anyone who wants to actually, who's in the process or wants to do this, buy something, how would they get a hold of you, John?
Email is good. Singletonpress@protonmail.com.
But also, is this anywhere, like if they go to aceofcoins.com?
Ace of Coins has lots of information. There's an order form with an email address, my same email address. The best way to get me is by email. Now you can go on Telegram and you can join Ace of Coins and get our, I do a Thursday announcement for a call. I do our Thursday evenings. My address on Telegram is JJ Singleton. So it's at JJ Singleton. Those Telegram and email are probably the best ways to get me.
Okay. So, all right, let's just use me as a case study. My dad beat in my head my whole life that I needed to pay off my house. Now I'm recognizing the error that ways, but I'm getting really, really close, right? So what would you counsel that I do? And I have this 575E, which I know that you don't know specifically what that is, but I think it would take you 2 seconds to recognize it's a nonprofit private association. So it's, how would you suggest, like, instead of paying, here's what was wondering, is there a way I can pay it off, get gifted or whatever it is, what do you call quit claim deed or over to this entity?
Yeah.
And then, so it owns it, not me. So I'm protected. And then is there a way then that I can take a loan from that entity on that property so that I can pay my W-2 and ultimately be able to, that becomes my mortgage holder so I can write off that interest. And then
you can refinance it.
And then I'm just putting more money into that entity that to where there's no taxes. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay, you can refinance it, but I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. There's a complicated thing you just said.
Okay.
Okay. The first thing about is just a better use of money. And my recommendation is to not pay off consumer debt, because any way that you pay it off is just more income. It's reportable income. So sometimes if you pay off your mortgage too early, you boost yourself up into a higher tax bracket. It makes no sense. Plus you tie up your capital in something that's eating your capital.
But let's
liability is just eating your capital.
I already did. I mean,
I'm saying for everyone's
everyone
listening. So here's what I recommend. You have a liability on a balance sheet. It's your house.
Yeah.
With all the liability that goes with that.
Yep.
I would set it off with some sort of cash flow. So what does that mean? What kind of cash flow can I get into besides, I don't recommend the stock market, but what thing can I buy that doesn't get my hands dirty and make me take on a second career that generates cash? And there are a list of things. We could talk about that. There are some things in real estate that you can do that with. But I would do a set off where on that balance sheet where my house is, I would put the asset on there and I would set off my regular liability and then be done with it. And I still have the debt, but someone else is paying for it. That's what I recommend. And I know it's extra work, but when your liability is paid off, you still have the asset. It's just a good habit.
Right, but that's counsel for somebody who may be getting into a house and you may be able to finance a mortgage over 30 years, right? To where, so I'm already into that.
But you can get a 15-year loan with all the rates that are out there for 2% and leverage the crap out of your house if you wanted.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
I mean, it's so cheap. Really, I mean, 2% on a dollar. I mean, it's the dollar's just going down.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And this depends on what you're able to do. Like if you're a savvy investor and you know you can turn your capital over into something, I would go higher on my personal debt. Heck yeah, like you're saying. And I would use my, personal debt liability to invest it and turn it over and make some money with it.
How would I then get my equity out of my house? Let's just say it's $1 million of equity once it's paid off. It's like, okay,
You could
so
borrow
That's a
against it.
cash out refinance. That's what I do with
Yeah,
commercial real estate.
that's
Okay,
right.
and you don't pay any
And
taxes on that.
yeah,
That's tax free. That's
and
just
with
cash in your
commercial,
pocket.
I would go big with debt. I would go much more debt than on personal. So yeah,
so it's called
with
what, Pooch? Cash out refinance?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just
that's what
common
it's
sense.
all
That's what
about.
you do,
Yes.
especially with commercial. Like you just keep doing that over and over and over again with your properties, right? Like that's just how you do it. And then maybe not your personal ones, but your commercial ones, especially when money's so cheap. Why do you? I mean, you're not
Right.
making any money by having your equity sit there. It's just going down in value technically,
Yep.
right? So especially if it's based in dollar. But I'm just saying, like that's what everybody does. And when you take that, you got like if you just went to a bank and said, hey, I've got a property that's worth $10 million, they're going to say, well, the most we're going to cash out refinance is probably 70%, right? So 7 million, but still they're going to give you 7 million bucks
Yeah.
at a low interest rate,
Right.
and that money's going to go in your pocket tax free. Now, if it's income producing property, you want that anyway, because then you're offsetting that income with interest expense and depreciation, which that's a whole other discussion, Todd. We can go into that, but that's just going to take this call into hours and hours. But I'm just saying that's the name of the game. That's just normal. You can do it with your house too. You can do cash out refinance with your house, and people do that all the time, especially if it's in an area with accelerating, values. Like, well, everybody's in that right now, right? Because the market's so tight. But yeah, that's what you would do.
Okay, so let's say I would take out $700,000 and then go buy a couple of rental properties, right?
Okay.
So now those rental properties are paying my new mortgage, right?
You could do that.
So that's one option.
That
Or
is, it's a
put it
standard.
all in
It's
Bitcoin.
you could do that. Yeah. You could put it somewhere that's going to make some money, and presumably you don't want to get a second job to manage it.
Right.
So it could be paper assets too. It could be something, I have a bias against the stock market, but real estate's probably okay. And paper things like maybe tax lien certificates. If you have an office, outsource the management of that, you should be able to make some decent money on that.
Okay. Okay. So for people who might be interested in doing that, they can they get a consultation with you, John?
Yes.
Okay. And that would be through, I know you like email, but to book a consultation, can't you book that through, is it Privacy Fight or?
Yes. You book it through privacyfight.io. And it's a 45-minute consultation.
Okay. I'll put that in the show notes.
That right now is booked through September. I'm sorry to say, but
See, I mean, Todd, if I was you, I would do that. I would buy something, fix it up, put money into it to fix it up, then do another cash out refinance and pull everything out that you put in and do the same thing over and over again. That's what I would do.
Okay. Okay.
And then your basis and your real estate is zero, right? Like your cash on cash return, you can't even calculate the
That's right.
percentage because you've got nothing in.
That's almost
Okay.
infinite. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good, Pooch. We'll have a sidebar. That's why you and your dad own half of Richmond, Virginia. So
It's almost like an addiction or a habit. Or every time you do a deal, Mike, you're like, I have to do another one. It doesn't make any sense not to, right?
It does, right? And you almost you want to, if you leverage it to the point where it's tax neutral, right? Like you don't really care if you're technically making money on it. You're still, the cash flow is great, and there's no income tax against it. That's what I try to tell Todd. If there's a way to do, I mean, it's easy to do, Todd.
okay.
You could buy up your neighborhood and become your own mayor and all kinds of stuff.
That's true. I mean, you can do everything, and you have all these expenses that you could be you could be the property manager. And what's a reasonable property management expense, Todd? I don't know. It depends.
Yeah, man. The first thing I'd do is I would implement a mask law and show me your tax certificate.
Well, so take it to your own personal situation. You just bought a place for your daughter, right?
Correct.
So you should be a property manager. You should be charging a fee. She should be paying you money. Like, you should set that thing up proper
But that would
and treat it.
that would be like I co-signed for her as her so it's her first mortgage. So we got a really good low rate. If I would have had that as a rental or an investment property, it would have doubled my rate. So that's why I didn't do that. The interest rate. And then it would have made it not accessible for her to be able to pay that, monthly nut. So I don't know if I can still do that or declare it the way you're talking about, Mike.
Well, now that you've already done it, it's probably too late. I mean, you could probably change it. Like, if you did some of the stuff John was describing, you could change it, right, going forward. But you could just do it again.
You could refinance it. You could set up a company that's a property manager. I don't know what benefit that would be, but you can make it a third party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
One thing I recommend, I know it's so interesting to do this. It's so compelling that we always want to talk about how the heck do I get rid of this tax. And I just recommend, don't make a decision solely for a tax benefit. You're just going to get into trouble and you're going to miss opportunities. Instead, take your money and go make some money. Get a high return. Even if you screw up on the taxes, so what? Make some money. The IRS is friendlier than out in the world in business. The IRS is friendlier. If you owe money and can't pay, they'll make a deal with you that you'll love. I promise you. I've seen so many of those deals. I've got millionaire clients right now that owe the IRS hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in several years, okay, the list of them, in several years, they'll owe them nothing and have never paid them a dime.
Wow.
Legally.
So John, how do people make money alternatively? I know you've talked about this before. There are certain things that you can do. So like if it wasn't real estate and it wasn't crypto or whatever, what else can people like us do?
I talk to people once in a while, a couple times a week, people that are they want to go into cryptos, and maybe they have a whopping $10,000 or $3,000. And I still think it's a great time to invest in cryptos. But if you're struggling to do that, it's not a good idea in my recommendation. But what I recommend first is that I call it this: acquire some new cash flow. And depending on my conversation with the person, I can recommend something that will suit their situation. So one example is, and this is my generic one, and my son is doing this right now. He's 17, and he's telling me, I just want to have money to do whatever I want to do. So I said, well, you can do that. And so he's looking for a retail website like Shopify or Etsy, for example, not an eBay, not Amazon shopping cart, all that stuff, not an Amazon store, but an Etsy or Shopify. And there's a reason for that.
Okay.
He's looking for one he can buy for around $7,000 to $12,000, somewhere in there. But what he really wants is to make about $2,000 a month net. And it's pretty easy to do. And in many cases, you can make that purchase. Now, someone has already gone to the trouble of setting up this website, has customers already, has a shopping cart, everything's ready. He's already incurred the risk, the upfront costs, and he's going to sell it for basically 3 months to 6 months worth of its income. Which sounds wacky, like what the heck? Why would he do that? It just turns out that if you compare that situation from the 90s, that's been the trend, where in the 90s, if you're running a good brick and mortar business, your take home as the owner is 15 to 25%, and you're doing really good. Today, a business that's doing really good, that's not brick and mortar, that's online, a 50% take home is really good. And a lot of times they're 75% take home. So we actually use the success and profitability of the business we want to buy to finance the sale. And we use it in the negotiating process. So there's a way you approach the seller, and you buy that website, and all you really need is a merchant account. Then you check and make sure that your drop shippers supplied. You get the seller's consultation. Sometimes you got to pay them a little bit more. And after about a month or 2 or 3, you're going to start generating money that you're going to step in the shoes of the guy before you. And it's almost to where a lot of these you can run off your phone. You can literally travel around the world and make as much money as you want and do it on your phone. And I know that sounds crazy, but people do this. I mean, 62 years old, 35 years old. I have college students doing this to pay off their student loan. And when they do that, they now realize that they can make money as easy as baking a cake.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can supplement your income that way, just getting a simple website.
So how do you go about assessing which websites would be?
Well, I look at the asking price. I don't make the decision based upon how much is being asked. I base it on what it's producing against what it's being asked. So I use this as a benchmark. Okay, asking for an annual gross sales as the asking price. That's reasonable, but it's kind of high if you look at the statistics. There are plenty out there that from 3 to 6 months worth of gross income, you can pay for the business.
Hmm,
So if I buy it today, and let's say I pay cash to the seller, I give him $7,000, and it's netting me $2,000 in a few months. I got my capital back, right? My principal's back, and I'm rolling. So I make the decision as to how to buy it based upon how quickly I get my money back. And my rule is really depending on the type of the profile that you're looking for, you're going to make that decision. But in my case, I like to recommend people look for 3 to 6 months. If you can pay it off with 3 to 6 months of the business income, that's a good starting point if someone's never done that before.
why would
Because,
anyone ever sell their company for that?
okay, this is a really good question. And what I'm describing to you, you'll find there are many, many of those on for sale that are only 18 months old. And you would think traditionally this is crazy. No, this is fake. These numbers are fake. And when I ask these owners, and a lot of times in their profile, their listing, they'll tell you that a lot of these guys are not the actual business owner that's what they wanted to do. What they're doing is setting up 50 of those. And for some reason, they're able to build up the cash flow and the customer base and the inventory and control everything. And they're able to turn it over. So they're basically like flipping a URL for a better way to, no, I don't have a better way to explain that.
Okay.
So they're taking a URL, they're getting into a market that's already making money. It's kind of like if you were selling exercise equipment, it's flooded. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. What the heck would you get in there for? There's all this competition, but so what? You don't need to sell everyone your device. You just got to sell 10,000 people that device. And
Right.
the market's huge. So that's what they're doing. And that's usually what they're telling you. Now, sometimes if you'll find something for sale for $50,000 and it might be a mom and pop type operation that's 7 years old. And that's
Hmm,
up to you if you want to do that. And the cool thing is you don't want to do this yourself. Like I call it being naked. You don't want to go and go to the seller and say, "Hey, can I buy your website?" You want to go to the broker and have the broker consult with you, and he's going to screen you out. He's going to maybe recommend that you set up a company, that you do a basic balance sheet just to get, so you look like you're intelligent, and then you're going to come to the seller with an offer, and he'll write the offer. If it gets accepted, he will actually help you with the due diligence. He works like a real estate agent, and he'll make sure that the sales records are actually legitimate IP addresses and got processed properly from different customers, that it was legit.
where does one find these brokers?
The go-to I recommend it's a service called exchangemarketplace.com. I do not have any relationship with this organization. It's a listing service. You probably will find a broker through that service. If you don't want to do that, there's like 100 others. Okay, what you'd be looking for is an online web store or online business broker.
Okay.
And sometimes a lot of the good ones that you'll recognize when you go browsing their listings, just like a real estate agent. Um, you can subscribe to them for free, and then every day or every month or whatever, you'll get listings and based upon a profile that you are looking for. So let's say you only want to buy dry cleaners in your area. They'll actually have that. That's it. They'll give you only that. If you want to buy a website that sells toys or pet toys only, that's what you'll get.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there's some hot markets too. Like for example, one woman came to me and she had this MLM thing she was in, and it was doing great, making a lot of money. And she wanted to set up her own website and reinvent the wheel, is what I told her. And I said, you could probably do that and you'll probably do really well. And it's a hot product, so you'll probably do well. But do you know, or I asked her, what businesses do you know that have just one product? And I don't know of any. I mean, maybe there are some, but they don't last too long, or they have to develop something.
Yeah.
So I suggested to her for what she's doing, and she was making good money. I said, go and find yourself a retail site that's selling something like that. Maybe it's a competitor. Like go shop for that product you're selling, shop for it, but see if there's someone else that's selling something like it, and then buy that if it's for sale. If you can get that website, it's already done. All you
Yeah.
need is a merchant account. Put your product on the shopping cart, and now you've got an array of products, and now you can scale up and
Mhm.
present to your niche market, and you've got some stability there. You've got other products.
Right.
That's another use for that tool.
Oh, this is great. This is great, man. So you're it's wonderful. Your son is going to be
Yeah.
flipping businesses.
And he
That's
doesn't realize as soon as he starts making money, I'm going to say, now it's time to pay rent. So
nice.
haven't told him that punchline yet. Good job.
Well, let me. I was having a conversation with a friend today, talking about how when I was young, one of these when I was young stories is like when I graduated from high school. I went to college, and my dad absolutely helped me get through college. Later, paid him back unexpectedly. I'd done well, and I sent him a check, and I said, "Dad, thanks for getting me through." He didn't expect it. He wouldn't accept it, but it was very,
Yeah.
it meant a lot to me to at least attempt to do that. But I'm waiting for my daughters to call me with that same offer. But but I was thinking about how quickly after I got out from under the house, how it was easier back then, I guess,
Yeah.
to be able to get on my own. And
Mhm.
these days it just doesn't seem like it is as easy for these kids. So
No.
parents like us, we end up being parents, sustaining our kids for a lot longer times, I think,
Yeah.
up
Yeah, possibly.
including,
Right.
through the 20s, it seems. Because I don't know. Maybe that's not everybody's experience, but it's just kind of,
Well,
it's
you don't have to. I mean, I just, to my children, my daughter's already moved out. She's 19 and she's on her own and she makes her own money. I don't even know how she does it. She
wow.
just
That's
figures it
called,
out.
that's called
She's
being
kind of
John J. Singleton homeschooled.
she's kind of an entrepreneur. Yeah. A couple of months ago, I challenged her. It was a very small challenge. I just said, if you can make $100 doing something, I'll match it. And she did. She made $140. I had to match her 140. So
That's
it's
so
just
cool.
fun stuff like that. Yeah. But I told him a long time ago, I said, don't go to college because you can learn in many, many ways. And college really is not a place for learning these days. It's a place for being stupid. And if you want to get, letters after your name or, degrees or something, you can certainly do that, but go out and learn, go do something, go work for somebody for free for 3 months. And because they can make their own money and do what they want, they can literally work and they don't need a paycheck.
Right. Right. No, that is so true, man. It's so wise. And
Yeah.
we have to deprogram ourselves, even as parents. So good on you for leading your kids that way. Because boy, we just know what's happened over the last couple of years, just
Yeah. Right.
this, it's everything is controlled out there. And
Oh, yeah.
when you go through 12 years of indoctrination camp as a kid, it's like my heart goes out to these kids now that are in these freaking schools, masked up. And it's like my daughter just graduated, and she had a couple of ceremonies to wear like HGS or whatever that is. But I saw some pictures. I couldn't go, but I saw some pictures, and it was all the kids lined up 6 feet apart, sitting down on a chair, everyone masked up. And I swear to God, it looked like a gulag. It looked
It
like,
is.
yeah, yeah,
We don't have schools anymore. They're gone.
they're gone.
Make no
So,
mistake. Yeah.
yeah. So I applaud you for that. And I think, can you imagine the amount of money that it takes to go through college? If you invested every single dollar of that, dollar cost average that into a top 10 crypto portfolio over that 4
Sure.
year time, and
Sure.
sure, it's a bouncy ride, but if you dollar cost average
Yeah.
in, can you imagine how much that would be worth instead of an expense? It would it would just be a
Well,
crazy
you did that with anything. You could take the money you would allocate for college tuition and you could literally buy a Starbucks license or a dry cleaner's operation in your neighborhood
Hmm.
for like, you could do it from anywhere from $12,000 to maybe 50,000. I mean, you can get that financed. It's not, it's cheap. And within a year or two, and you probably wouldn't even have to work at the job if you did it right, if you have the right, people in there
Yeah.
to manage it. So, if your purpose in going to college is to make money, well, then you missed the boat because if you should be going to college to learn something if there was something to learn. Otherwise,
If you
go
can
make
find
money.
people, if you can if you can find people to work, that's the big if.
Yeah, yeah, right. That's the other aspect of it too. A lot of people just want something for nothing. I hear a lot of stories from clients where they can't even like they do maintenance work and out in residential, commercial, whatever, and they can't get people to show up for work, or they always have excuses, or they're high. I mean, I don't know
Right.
about Florida. I see that. I mean, it might be different other places, but I don't know what's up with Florida. It's like,
No, if you were smart, you would have your kids become certified electricians,
yep,
plumbers,
yep. My
HVAC
yeah,
people. I mean, you make a killing.
I had my daughter study plumbing and wiring a house in school. That you want to be my student? You're going to learn how to wire a house when you're 16. And my son
That's
too,
brilliant.
and my other son. Yeah, the both of them. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know how to do that, but they know more than I do now. And I got a couple of books on how to build a machine shop and all the equipment that goes in a machine shop. And now I'm having them break down the lawnmower and build it back up and modify and do all the stuff to it. So
John J. Singleton's kids are going to come out with a lawnmower with a bored out carburetor and a dual quadribustion system. They're gonna mow your lawn in 3 point.
or have someone else do it.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Mike. I think the future is about doing stuff that does things in your life, not buying paper and crossing your fingers and then having a job and then you bet on your pension that they're using to rob pension funds around the world with. You have to do something for real now.
right,
So
right.
Yeah, and it's really becoming hard to find people to do that, right? Like you pay a ton to have that done. I mean, it's crazy.
yeah,
But you can make a lot of money right out of the gate.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
yeah.
So, Johnny, thank you. Mike, do you have any additional questions? I want to be respectful of your time, John. I know it's sparse.
Well, I finished my last call today. All I have is some documents, but I'm good. So
Good.
no rush there.
Okay. Good.
No, this was enlightening, Uncle V. It was great.
Awesome. Well, John, on a mask-free world note, I think we're good, right?
What, in Florida?
No. Just meaning, with my issue that I have. I know this is
Oh
not
yeah.
related.
I like that. I like
We're
what's
just
going
in a
on.
holding pattern right now, right?
Not really. This is going to be a good advantage.
Okay.
I'm very eager to see how this develops.
Okay.
It's
Great.
going to help a lot of people. I've got a few cases that are like that now, so it's
Okay. Great.
looking
Great.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited if you're excited. Awesome. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up, make it a quickie. But thank you everyone in the chat. Really appreciate you as always. Why don't you do me a favor and let a few people out there know this channel exists? John can do, again, it's Singleton Press at protonmail.com, right? Singleton Press, protonmail.com. If you do email John, he usually gets back within 15 minutes. So if he takes 20 or 30, I'm joking, everyone.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, great. No, I try to answer as soon as some comes in, but I just get bogged down, and
I know.
I'm literally I answered an email today that was 4 months old, and the guy was so patient with me.
Yeah.
But I try to answer as quickly as I can. So
Yeah. I've learned that when I really want to get your attention on something, if it has a deadline, I'll do it from my phone so that I can put in a red light emoji or something.
that helps. Yeah,
I just need to differentiate from all the 600 you get a day. I think you probably get more than that a day.
I don't know. I've got about 1,500 right now. It's probably 1,600 by the time I look.
Right.
So,
Well,
but we got people in the background now finally, and
okay.
what I just took on a lot of stuff with the fake pandemic, and I've pretty much 90% created all the strategies, and now they're able to use them all, and so it's going to work a lot faster, and so I could take that off of my plate, so to speak.
Wow. Do you have any kind of interesting updates on that of where you think this is going to head?
I think that I think we see some of the governors backing off on the measures, which are legally unenforceable, but people don't know that. So uh, they're able to push this agenda to force people into these medical interventions.
Hmm.
But what I think I'm seeing is the governors back off so that that way the pending cases can be removed from the courts, and then no one will ever get a public record showing that the case was bogus. Like, for example, a person who was arrested for trespass while shopping because they didn't want to submit,
Hmm.
okay, to their stupid ass mask wearing ritual.
Yep.
Um, uh, those cases, you can't win. The state can't win. That is not a winnable case. So they're stacked up so much now that the governor can just say, "Oh, we're giving clemency to all those people," and they get all happy because their case gets thrown out, which it would have been thrown out anyways, unless you were scared and you got an attorney, and what the attorney did is turn you over to the state. So he'll scare you and convince you to make a plea or something, and then
Okay,
you'll
let
just
me ask you this, because
yeah.
I know someone who's not afraid, and uh, if they want to offer clemency, can this someone that I know actually continue to and proceed, or
It's not necessary. Don't waste your time because people are already doing it and we're making progress. And I don't want to get into too much detail, but I can just tell you that it's not looking good for the perpetrators of this fraud. And that's why you see the governors backing off and saying, "Oh, well, yeah, you can't do this anymore, guys." But yet the DOH in the background is harassing businesses to enforce this stuff. Um, but they're trying to scrub the records so they can never get a determination. I'll give you an example of that. In the UK, they enacted a law called the Coronavirus Act. And what they did is they criminalized curfew violations, like a traffic code. They criminalized everything they wanted to push on people, like mask wearing and social
yeah?
distancing and all this stuff. And of all the people that were arrested and cited and prosecuted, not one of them was ever convicted. And not only that, but that is public record because it's a court system. The courts hid the records and they had to get that information from a Freedom of Information Act request. That's how evil this stuff is. And that's what they're doing here too. So, but I think we're seeing some good
But what
progress.
about, John, the variant of the variant of the variant, now 30 times more contagious as an asymptomatic silent assassin? So, I mean, seriously, I'm not even shitting you. That's where this is going in certain places
Yeah,
that aren't Florida.
they're
You know,
mocking people. They're mocking people because people believe that actually there's an actual contagious pathogen. It doesn't even exist.
no.
They just made up a name. I mean, they were doing this years ago.
Yeah,
I can show you the documents.
my one
Yeah.
liner back when I got my 6 channels banned was they hijacked flu season and rebranded it.
Yeah, they just reclassified everything, and now they're murdering people. So now people that are stupid enough to think there's an actual vaccine and get injected with it, then they end up in the hospital in ICU. And I know of people in this situation where the hospital finishes them off, and then they get another 40 grand for doing it.
The
So
hospital gets 40K.
yeah, I was at BJ's the other day, and the guy there checking us out says you have to stand 6 feet from me, and I said I'm not moving anywhere. I just stood there. I was just being a jerk,
Yeah.
but and then I said, look, man, there's no contagious virus, okay? No one's getting sick from anything. You guys are just, it's in your mind. They're just making this stuff up, man. Stop believing the Hollywood movies. And he started shouting. He stomped his feet and shouted at me. He said, my mother died of this.
Yeah.
He actually thought his mother died. And I just felt so bad for him. And I didn't want to tell him that, no, she was murdered. I'm sorry to tell you, but if you think somebody died from this, you're wrong. They were murdered.
Mm.
There is no, they take them down.
Well, and people do die out there.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure people die of something,
Yeah,
but,
and I'm not even kidding you. I remember that there was a point to where somebody did die in an auto accident, and they were classified as a CV death.
I know that's
Yeah.
the reason why I even have my foot in this stuff is because for many years, and we talk about taxes and everyone wants to talk about that, but my purpose is to get involved in risk management. So I'm a professional consultant, basically. I am an investor, I'm an entrepreneur, and I focus on risk management, and what I'm selling is a service that manages risk for other people's businesses or individually. So I look at property rights. I look at ways of changing property rights to avoid and manage liability. And so when I see a fake pandemic and I think to myself, well, okay, you guys, come on, you actually have medical privacy rights. Do you know what that is? That's a property right. I see it as a property right. And all the case law explains a medical privacy right, your right to informed consent, that is a property right, just like real estate. And so I see that and I know what the remedy is. And everybody goes, I don't know what to do. I have to keep my job. So that's why I felt compelled to publish a lot of this information. I had to recreate a whole bunch of stuff and it's taken me all year. So again, that's why I'm back, behind. but we have a lot of great people that are jumped in and helped me out. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but I like where this is going. It's ugly, but I think we've got some good progress. I've got some cases right now where um, we could tell the attorney's being exhausted because he can see, even if we're going to lose the case, he can see that he's wrong, but
yeah.
he's still going to be an attorney. I could tell by talking to him and stuff. And so um, some of the attorneys are saying, I brought it up. They won't do this, but I brought it up and I said, look, how about if we just dismiss the case as long as your client agrees not to mess with us anymore?
Mm-hmm.
And they're starting to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a win, but it's a win. And it's a demonstration that there are people out there that will cost you $10,000, even if they lose, because you're doing the wrong thing. You don't have a duty of care here.
Right.
You don't have a duty of care. Just shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leave us alone.
You're violating your duty of
but
care.
in my case, Costco does have to give me that $682 back.
That day is coming, I think.
Uh-huh.
I think they're really concerned about, from reading everything, I think they're really concerned about the fact that they're going to have to establish that someone's a direct threat, and they've never complied with the law that requires them to do a list of things.
Yeah.
They haven't done that. They just said, oh, the news said everybody's a threat. Okay, then everybody's a threat, and you can't do that. That's actually illegal.
But do you know, John, their response to me in their motion to dismiss was very, very condescending. Like, you're just a conspiratard.
Oh yeah, that's what they do because there's no legal argument.
Not any case law.
No, I've seen cases. I scour the records and I look at public records and I see some cases where the attorneys are saying it's a law to wear a mask. I mean, there was one case where, okay, the FDA has a final guidance on mask wearing, and the FDA itself says mask wearing is the application of a medical device.
Yes.
Yeah, and the court itself says no, it's not. And the court itself said there is a law that requires everyone to wear a mask. That'd be like saying there is a law that requires everyone to have a tattoo or heart surgery, whether or not you need it.
Or to genuflect before going into the sport.
Exactly. Yeah. So of course there can never be a law for that. I mean, it violates all the other laws. But the judge said that, and I think
behind John, the fact that this is a deadly contagion, that this is just way different, that we can change the rules because this is something that we have to for humankind. I mean, if we don't do this, everybody's
every pleading that I've seen, the attorneys always come back and say, in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yes, those are the words.
Of course, that statement can be stricken because it's completely false, and not even if it's false, even if it's true, the laws haven't been changed just because there's a pandemic. Even if there was a pandemic, laws have not changed. And if you want to know, most of the states, I shouldn't say most of the states, 15 of the states, maybe more, but 15, some smart people have compiled all the laws that pertain to pandemic situations, and they called a bench book or a bench guide, like for your state, like the Alaska bench book or something on pandemics. And if you read through there and look at the isolation and quarantine rules, all those require judicial intervention.
All of
them. You can't have a retailer that says you have to do this.
Right.
Regarding your health. Yeah, they can't impose medical conditions, nor can your employer. And that is old law. That's like 100 years old. That's why I say this is all about property rights. Your medical privacy rights are property rights. Even if, and you're not under any duty to tell someone if you've been vaccinated or not.
Right.
You don't have to even discuss that with anyone.
What's going to happen when the airlines start requiring a Vax Pass?
They're pretty much doing that now. And right now, no one's challenged them. And there is a clear path to challenge them. We can take them on, we can take them to task on that. The thing is, they're not under the Americans with Disabilities Act. They're not under I don't think they're under the Rehabilitation Act, like Section 504. I believe they're under the Air Carriers Access Act. Air Carrier Access Act. I think it was 1980. And that basically talks about people with disabilities. And the interesting thing about this whole thing is anyone who's considered to have a contagious disease is regarded as having a disability. And because of that situation, it creates all these obligations on retailers and professionals like your dentist that they're completely violating. They don't even know it.
Well, can you use, I mean, you're familiar with me in my case, so I'm kind of the poster child, right? As far as,
probably, yeah.
as somebody who has a legitimate diagnosed invisible disability, PTSD, to where I cannot wear a mask because my brain starts
Mhm.
to think that I'm drowning, and that
Yeah,
closes my
right.
trachea. So it's not a, I mean, to me, it's a big deal. So when Costco, all of a sudden, you just say, no, we're going to ignore any medical exemptions, even though those executive orders were bunk to begin with. Still, if you're going to call on those to implement your policy in the first place, then you can't just cherry pick and ignore the part that says accept those people with medical exemptions, right?
Yeah, it's more of a disability that requires modifications than it is a medical exemption, because an exemption would mean that you're exempt from a law, and there is no law requiring this medical intervention of any kind.
Mhm.
So it's because you're regarded as having a disability, then you're not okay. The mask wearing is what's known as a mitigation measure.
Yes.
So under the ADA, if someone regards you as having a disability, for example, regards you as having a contagious disease, and then offers a mitigation measure, which may include wearing a mask or 6 feet apart or a vaccine or whatever, you're not required to accept it.
Right.
It says it right in the statute.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to provide something else. Or you can offer them, you can say, well, how about this? How about you just leave me alone and I go shopping? And that way it won't cost you anything. And
Mm-hmm.
their complaint is, as you're going to see, I think, they're going to say, well, it's costing us money because the other customers are scared. Well, that's not actually a really good defense. That's not justifiable.
But
It'd be like,
of a global pandemic, that's
and
that
that's funny. It's actually funny to say that, because that shows how stupid you are. Because do you guys know what standard deviation is?
right. Yes.
If I want to look at, a set of numbers and it's doing this and it changes, let's say it's volatile, right? But
Yeah.
it's regularly volatile. My
Yes.
standard deviation is 0 or close to it.
Right. Right.
If it's doing this and then way up and then way down and then it goes back, now I have maybe a standard deviation of 1 or 1.8,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Go look at the total mortality rate for the last 4 years. Standard deviation of like 0.1. It's 0.
Zero.
So
So,
so if there's a standard deviation of 0 for the mortality rate, then how can there be a pandemic? Check any population, any records anywhere.
well, that's a good question. What is classified as a pandemic?
It's
I
an
mean,
epidemic that spans communities.
okay.
So city to city, state to state, town to town.
Okay. So it has legs. It spreads. It spread.
Yeah,
People get on
it's
airplanes. Yeah.
right. It would affect more people than, and if the germ theory was actually accurate, and if there was any science that proved it to be correct,
Yeah.
you could have be spreading germs, so to speak, if you were flying in planes and traveling. But that is actually not true. That none of that stuff is true.
What is the terrain theory then?
Well, terrain theory is you're affected by your environment, and that's it. Uh, you're not infecting someone else. For example, terrain theory would be like this. You go to a party, some people are sick, they're sneezing, and then the next day you get the same symptoms, sore throat, you're sick, you're sneezing, and you didn't catch something from those people. This is what we're taught. We're taught that we caught a germ, that someone coughed in our area and we got those germs in our body. That actually would not make you sick. But what happens is your body is, it's electromagnetic. It has a field around it, and it senses bioelectric information, let's call it, or energy from other people. And so your body will decide if it needs to mimic that person's symptoms because of your condition. And if it does, basically what your body decides to do is clean out whatever is causing you to not be as healthy as you should be. And then the symptoms are cleaning out whatever those germs are. And guess what cleans out all those germs? The viruses.
Detox. What?
Viruses. Your body makes viruses to get rid of whatever is in your blood that would impair your immune system. So the
So,
virus itself is not
so
the pathogen.
viruses are bodily born, not
Yeah.
not 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 you don't catch them from outside.
No, you don't. A virus is not a contagious pathogen. It is a function of your immune system that follows bacteria that have been exhausted in cleaning out your blood. And if there's still more blood to be cleaned, well, then the body makes certain types of viruses. And then at the point where it doesn't need it, that reaches a threshold, the viruses dissolve and break down and get excreted. So if you get sick because someone else is sick, it's because your body needed to go through that process and sensed it from someone else. And if you remember, sometimes you've been around people that were sick and you didn't get sick
Oh,
because your body didn't need to.
see,
Yeah.
the way that
Yeah.
I understood the terrain theory, which is a little differently, doesn't have to do with electromagnetic or anything. To me, what made sense, and maybe this is right, maybe it's wrong, but to me, the germ theory, if you think about a fish tank, the germ theory would say if a fish gets sick, you'd basically say that fish caught something and we need to vaccinate the fish. Where the terrain theory would say that fish is sick, let's take a look at the water, make sure that the water isn't contaminated. Let's make sure there's enough oxygen in the environment.
Yes.
There looks to be on the side of the tank some algae and stuff. So
Right.
let's clean that off. So you look in the environment. So because if that fish is in an environment that is toxic, it's going to catch the toxins, if you will.
It'll be infected. Yeah.
Be infected. So then what happens to when somebody goes through, let's say back in the old days when we used to catch the flu, it would be what I now believe is that when I have the flu, that's basically detox season for me.
Right.
And based upon how I treat my body throughout the year, usually kind of like the leaves, in nature, they all fall the same time of the year. So usually people get sick around the same time of the year. So I believe that we're kind of hardwired to have that be detox season. So what happens then with the germ theory, you catch a virus from outside and it comes in and it attacks your body. With the terrain theory, it's basically your body saying, hey, this Uncle Vigilante dude, he has drunk a lot of alcohol this year. He smokes his cigars. He eats like shit, and he's pretty sedentary. And we basically, our cells, have a lot of, it's like a dirty room. So we need to blow the whistle and have what are called exosomes, which are also called viruses, but exosomes come in to the room. Let's call a cell a room, sweep up. They're like sponges. They just suck it all in. They're like the garbage collectors of toxins. Then they exit the door of the cell and they blow the whistle. And the body, your largest organ is your skin. Your body says, the exosomes or the viruses say, hey, I have the trash. I'm ready to get me the hell out of here. Expel me. So then you have the mucus. You sweat through your skin. You cough. You sneeze. Your body is basically detoxing. So that's where and I can reconcile it that way. It makes a lot of sense to me. So it's not necessarily that people get sick at the same time. It's just people go through detox. A lot of us are on the same cycle and will get sick at the same time. But the terrain theory is absolutely not as profitable for big pharma.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Because the terrain theory is managed by Big Grandma. What Big Grandma tell us to do? Big Grandma said, drink lots of water, get lots of rest, help your body go through your own detox. She didn't know that she was saying that, but that's what I believe. I can reconcile that, and frankly, that makes me feel a lot safer out there. I can go out and engage in society. I've had to this last year without a mask and not live in fear that I'm going to catch something through the air.
And think about how long we've been here, at least 250,000 years, according to Lloyd Pye. Okay, at least human beings, Homo sapiens, about 250,000 years. How could we have survived that long if our bodies are so weak that we need a man-made thing? It's not even food or medicine, and put it into our blood to survive. That doesn't make any sense. How could we even have survived this long? And then all of a sudden, in the last 50 years, we need it? I don't think so.
Yeah. That there you go, being logical again.
I'm not even a scientist, but I mean, I could think and I could read numbers. And even if you can't read the numbers, let's say you can't read the medical examiner's official records because the medical examiner won't release them. What does that tell you?
Right.
Come on.
Right. But the fact is, this is what's crazy. This is how powerful mainstream media is, though.
Hmm.
Most everybody is still under the spell, because of the
Yeah,
problem
it is.
people consume. And because if you engage critical thought and you take a look at that standard deviation that you talked about, and the death rate has not gone up at all,
Right.
period, end
Right.
of story, full stop. As a matter of fact, it's gone down in
It
many.
was down. Right.
And so with that, how on earth, unless you are under a spell, why don't you just look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, whoa, even if I believe this, my immune system is 99.8%
Yeah. Right.
great at defeating it. If I do
Right.
go through my own detox, which I would have,
Right.
because it's the flu, if I would have done all that. But let's just say that I believed in all of this. Then now I'm going to be JABBED with something because the TV tells me I need to, when my own operating reality is my
Right.
body. God's really good at what he did. He gave me everything needed to be able to
Right.
fend off. So I don't know, man. As you know, because of my lawsuit with the big C, it's like I probably know a little bit more about all of this than most, and have gone down lots more rabbit holes. But I just stand here today and I'm like, if there's anything that I want for people to know, is just don't live in fear that you're going to catch something that's going to kill you, or that you're going to be a carrier that's going to kill grandma when you hug her.
If that's the one thing I could convey to people, just don't be afraid. Even if it's real, don't be afraid. But yeah, let me know if anything pops up in the case, because
even if it's real, your body is 99 per their statistics, 99% effective at so I'll take those odds any day.
Yeah. I mean, what are your odds of being killed in a car wreck, especially with people texting now and now losing their consciousness because they just got vaccinated? I mean, your odds of getting into a car wreck are way better.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike, by the way, you aren't driving, are you, with that heart medication? I just had
I think Mike may have fallen down.
He may have fallen out. He said, oh, no, they're talking about this CV-19 stuff. I'm out. I want to talk real. No, this is good, man. It's been a long time since I've talked about any of it because I kind of like this channel.
Yeah, really.
But it is, it feels like a little bit of therapy right now. So thanks for engaging with it. But John, you're always awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, man.
And everybody, and I mean this, it's like this guy has a heart of gold and he'll help anyone. You just need to be patient with him. But man, you are, I've said it 100 times, you're doing yeoman's work, man. Just you've helped so many people.
I hope it's effective.
Yeah.
Everyone's patience.
You bet. All right. Hey, everyone in the chat, thank you. I can't wait I'm going to go copy and paste this chat. It looks like it was a good one just because it goes poof after I end this. So thank you guys for coming in. And, we have a fair number of people watching and hopefully more. So, all right, Johnny, thank you. Say hi to you.